The live button.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Forno Show. We are 3 days away. Yes, from the time of this recording started, we are just 72 hours and 54 minutes away from the Carolina Panthers officially going on the clock. And we have a lot to talk about, including Vikings' potential moves. Aaron Rodgers is finally gone, and more here on the Real Forno Show.
Welcome to the Real Forno Show. Managing editor of the USA Today's Vikings Wire. Betting and college football analysis for the Fantasy Points website. Publisher of Substack Run and Shooter. Host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, as well as a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome. This is a great day here in the land of Minnesota. And Dave, Aaron Rodgers is gone. Oh, it's a banner day. Now, for the first time in seemingly forever, Dave, the Vikings will not be facing a future Hall of Fame quarterback in the land of the Green Bay Packers. Now, things could change.
We hope.
Things could change. And Jordan Love could be that guy. But we're going to go off the premise that he's not, because we haven't seen anything that say he's going to be that guy. And if he is, that's just going to be the beginning of my Joker arc. But welcome to the Real Forno Show. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. And since it's the biggest news, let's talk about this Aaron Rodgers trade. It's a complicated one. The Packers trade Aaron Rodgers, number 15, and a 5th-round pick to the Jets. In return, the Jets send pick 13, pick 42, a 6th-round pick, and a conditional second next year. Here's the conditions. Rodgers has to play 65% of the snaps. So if Rodgers gets hurt like week 6, it's only a second, and it's not a 1st-round pick. So basically, the Jets gave up the base value of like a 1st and a 2nd round pick, to go and get Aaron Rodgers to try and propel them to a potential Super Bowl run. Is that too much? That's a debate. But I think both sides got what they wanted. Neither side got screwed. You could, David in the chat saying Jets overpay. I think the Jets got out of here doing pretty well. I don't think it's an overpay at all. I think it's honestly a good price considering what you're getting. I don't really have any issues with it. How do you feel about it, Dave?
I think the whole deal reeks of desperation on both sides. But other than that, I'm glad he's out of the division and I don't care anymore. We don't play the Jets, if I remember correctly, so too bad.
Yeah, it kind of is what it is. Look, thank goodness. Thank goodness, Dave. I'm so
Now, that wasn't the news I was expecting you to talk about.
And what news would that be, Dave?
The big news of the day.
What is the big news of the day if it's not Aaron Rodgers being rid of the NFC North?
The big news of the day is Forno with Thor now has his own show on Purple Daily. Going to have to add that to the intro, called Purple Daily on Draft. So grab your beer stein when you're wanting to talk college prospects with 2 of the best in Minnesota. You go to Purple Daily for On Draft.
Yes, I'm not going to lie. I'm very excited for it, Dave. It's something you and I have been talking about, and this opportunity kind of got put into my lap. I've wanted to do a Vikings-centric NFL draft podcast for some time. And now it's finally the opportunity to do so. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to see how this continues to grow and develop. And nobody better to do it with than Thor, who just dropped the Thor 500. Yes, the Thor 500. 500 player big board with comps, athletic testing, all that stuff. Really, really good. Yes, this is
I
great.
took you off guard.
That's okay. It is big news, but Aaron Rodgers being gone from the NFC North is look
him. I could care less.
Oh, hey, look, the Vikings don't have to deal with him anymore in the NFC North. That is massive, Dave. But if you're joining us tonight, thank you very much. I am Tyler Allman, the Rambling Man, as Anthony said in the comments. Look, I have the beautiful hair. It just is what it is. That's what happens when your dad's side is 100% Norwegian. It's good stuff.
Is that what it is?
But we have well, yeah, that's why it's blonde and beautiful.
Oh, see, not mine. That receding hairline and lost hair over years. That comes from my side of the family. So, or both sides. But the glorious beard, that comes from my mother's side grandfather. He was the one that taught me if you can't grow it on top, grow it on the bottom.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I'm lucky enough where I can grow it on top.
And the bottom. I know. Yes. We're all jealous.
Oh, the bottom, like, I don't know. Does it grow on the bottom? Sure, but it's not like, I don't know. It exists.
But hey, we've deviated enough so far tonight. Let's get into your first topic. You wanted to talk potential trades because it's come out today. There are about 3 that have hit the Viking sphere within the last few days, and they're sort of crazy. Let's talk about the one you wrote about yesterday on Vikings Wire.
Okay, so here's the thing with these trades, Dave. We can talk all we want, and I've done a lot of that talking about how the Vikings should try to trade up to 3, all that stuff. That doesn't mean it'll happen, and here's what I mean by that. It takes 2 to tango. Because it takes 2 to tango, that means you have to have another team willing to take you up on that trade offer. It's that simple. Like, the Vikings could try all they want to go up to 3, but all the Cardinals have to do is say, no, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to be there. That's fine. Odie is being a little turkey butt. He's hanging out in the back corner. He's got some plastic in his mouth. Dave, hold on a second. I gotta grab it.
And the one I was referring to was the one that came from, I think it was the Draft Network, where the Vikings may be ones trying to make a trade with the Houston Texans at number 2 to select Mr. Will Levis out of Kentucky. I went in and that one made me shake my head, so I went in and looked, deep dived into Will Levis to see if there's something I missed. Now, his last year was decent. There's nothing wrong with that. And he's got an arm. He can supposedly throw a ball 80 yards. Wow, that's fantastic. Reminds me of Jeff George. But his previous season, he was outstanding. Whether he can translate that to the NFL, we don't know. His Vegas stocks are going up. But us trading with Houston at number 2, I can't see how that deal could be done, whether Houston wanted to or not. That would cost literally an arm and a leg, and I don't know how they would pull that one off. But you wrote about it yesterday. Tell us.
Okay, so it's an interesting trade, right? If you want to do it, it's a lot. And sorry, Give me a second to catch my breath. My dog got a piece of plastic in his mouth, and
You wanted to save the life of your dog. Got it.
yeah. Okay, so Will Levis. One, if you're making that trade, it better be for Stroud or Richardson. If you're making that trade for Levis, I think it's a mistake. Levis has the widest range of outcomes of any of these top 4 quarterbacks. He has a high ceiling. He also has a low floor because of the issues he has, especially with playing under pressure, the inconsistency you have of him working within rhythm. But he's got talent. He really does. Going up to 2 for him with those guys still on the board, I think is a massive mistake. And you'd have to give up the farm to go get him. Now, I do like the idea of trading up into the teens. Just give up next year's one. Go up to like 14. Go get Richardson, Stroud, Levis. Your pick, whoever's there. Not, and I repeat, not Hendon Hooker. I'm not falling for that psyop. I'm just not. Look, at the end of the day here, Dave, no, I'm not falling for that psyop. Hendon Hooker's just not it. He is not it. He's never been it. And if you trade up for Will Levis, or Hendon Hooker, so I'm sorry, you're fired. I'm done. No.
You are done. The thought process of getting a quarterback early, I like that idea. But you've got to make sure it's right. I said to you this morning the clip of the quote that was in your story yesterday. How to measure a man's ball size without actually measuring the man's ball size. If Kwesi goes up and makes a trade to number 2 to get whomever, you got to imagine that they're using a yardstick to measure his, because that seems absolutely wild that he would do that and gamble, and it would be a gamble, his entire career on it, because do you think he'd get a second chance? Hey, you just made the biggest bust pick in the world, or the least effective. You're probably never going to be a GM again. So we'll find out. It is it's going to be exciting come Thursday. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's
yes, Colin. Go on.
It's going to be great on Thursday. I cannot be great. I cannot wait. Odie needs to stop eating plastic. All right, let's get back on track. Something I want to talk about as well is Peter King. Now, Dave, you and I have been reading Peter King for a long time.
Yes. Well,
legendary Sports Illustrated columnist, and now he works for NBC, and he releases a column every Monday called Football Morning in America. And it's basically the same as his Monday Morning Quarterback article that now Albert Breer has taken over. Here's the thing with Peter King. The man is plugged in. He has Hendon Hooker as the 4th quarterback off the board at pick 12 to the Texans. Says the Texans have done a lot of work on Hooker. On top of that, Dave, he has Minnesota Vikings
there that just went. Anyways, go ahead.
What did I do?
They've done a lot of work on the Texans. Have done a lot of work on Hooker. I can think of at least their former quarterback who was accused of that. But anyways,
yeah, the problem wasn't Hookers. He treated massage therapists as them. So the Vikings end up getting a quarterback at 23, Anthony Richardson. Peter King says he believes the ceiling is at 4, but nobody really knows what his floor is going to be. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what his draft stock looks like, but I almost guarantee you if he falls within a certain range and whatever that range the Vikings decide, I feel very confident in saying that they will be aggressive to try and trade up and get a quarterback if they start falling any of the top 4. Like, I don't know how high that range is going to be. There are already rumblings that they're trying to aggressively go up into like the top 5. I don't know if that's potentially the case, as Odie's chewing on his bed now. This dog is fun, man. I love my dog. But I'd say 10 is probably the ceiling. The realistic ceiling. 8 to 10 is probably the highest they could probably get. I don't see a team in the top 5 being willing to move down to 23. I just don't. The package would be nuts. But that's still a long way to go.
Unless you included a trade as part of that. Then you might get that. Yes, we'll move team whatever. Yes, we'll move down and take your number 23, and we'll take Danielle Hunter as well, and you're allowed to trade up. If they're looking for a premier edge rusher, taking Danielle in a trade and moving down to 23 makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Here's kind of what I see. If the Vikings have a trade to go up into the top 5, let's go with this hypothetical, because that's the whole point of the show, is to try and understand situations, okay? Let's say the Vikings have a deal to go up to 3 or 5, and they're going to get C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson. So let's go with this hypothetical, okay? The Vikings have a trade worked out. I bet they talked to Kirk Cousins about getting rid of his no-trade clause, and they might have a deal worked out with like the San Francisco 49ers on a contingency. So let's say the first deal goes through, and then they send Cousins to the 49ers and they get some of that draft capital back. Maybe it's a 1 or a 2 next year, potentially a little bit, and a 3 this year. Okay, that's doable. Get 99 and then either a first or second next year. I think that's definitely a trade that is realistic. The Vikings could make. There's so many variables here, Dave, and the one thing I feel really confident about this draft is the Vikings are not going to pick at 23. I just don't believe they are. I just don't. Mm-hmm. They're either going to trade up and get that quarterback, or they're going to trade back and get draft capital. One of the two is going to happen. Which one it's going to be? It's probably going to be the latter. They're probably going to end up trading back and getting draft capital. But until those quarterbacks are gone, I'm not ruling out them going to get one. He was not on the staffs at the time, but his 2 mentors in this business as general managers were John Lynch and Andrew Berry. What did both of them do? Dave, they both traded the farm for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Because they both traded the farm for a quarterback, tells me that Kwesi might have a similar mindset than both of those guys. Will he? I don't know. We'll find out. But it's something that we have to keep in mind, and that's why we're having this conversation, because it's coming out that they're trying to go up and get a quarterback, but it's also hard to trade up. It really is. Mainly, Dave, because it takes 2 to tango. Mm-hmm. There's a few blue chip guys, and because of the quarterbacks, you might be able to get a blue chip guy at 7 or 8, like Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter. That's pretty appealing to those teams. Like, oh my gosh, I get a top defensive lineman because these quarterbacks push them down the board. Okay, I'm in. But I'm really intrigued to see kind of how everything plays out. And we're going to be all on top of it. VikingsWire.com, Vikings First and Skol YouTube channel. Now, here's the thing. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to move on to our next thing. One, I greatly appreciate all of you listening. I know Dave feels the same. If you want our live draft coverage, here's what you have to do. You have to click like. You have to click subscribe and have those notifications on, because we are going to be going live on a moment's notice to talk about this stuff. We will not have a live draft show this year. Being that we just started this channel, next year's the goal for that. But something to be ready for, because we are going to be trying to get on, have these conversations with you as things happen. And we cannot wait for the draft and be able to talk ball with you in real time.
Now, before we move on, Michael just put up Crazy's little gun shy after 49ers lost all that on Trey Lance. Um, Possibly. That's quite possible. But out of all this trade talk, I sent Tyler videos yesterday of how the U.S. military uses smoke to hide themselves and disorientate the enemy, and they do it quite effectively. If this is a giant smoke show that's being encouraged because the Vikings are staying silent, they're allowing this. They haven't come out and said no, no. We're sticking at 23 or whatever. Not that they would, but with all of the feelers that go out and all these different agents and agencies and reporters and all the different stuff talking about, well, the Vikings could do this, the Vikings could do that. We're hearing the Vikings are going to do this. We're hearing the Vikings are going to do that, blah, 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 blah. It may be the biggest smoke show you've ever seen by a GM. We just don't know. We won't find out until Thursday night, most likely. Could stuff be announced before then? Yes, theoretically it could, but don't bet on it. And this is interesting to me because we haven't seen this sort of discussion when it comes to your Minnesota Vikings in a long time, because we never got it with Spielman. We knew who Spielman was going to take, right? It was simple. You knew who fit his bill, who he was targeting, and most likely it was a cornerback in round one. Yes, all that sort of stuff. We knew that. So none of this, there was no real opportunities for this. And to me, I find it fascinating, and I hope everybody as fans does as well. And it gets your brain thinking, well, what would it take to move up to number 2? What would it take to move up to number 3? What if we wanted to move up with the Eagles? Because that's been one that's been talked about a lot. Anthony Spielman is a cloud. Spielman did some good things and he did some not so good things, but the major thing with Spielman is he let that deteriorate over the last few years. With Zimmer, they didn't see eye to eye, obviously, and that was to the detriment of the team and, of course, to the disadvantage of us as fans. We wish that didn't happen. There's so many things that can happen Thursday, and that's why, to me, Thursday night's exciting. And we'll be here. I'll have Ecamm, which is what I use to stream with, up and running the whole night, and something happens, Tyler will hit the link, come on, and we'll talk about it. And then at the end of Thursday night, and the end of Friday night, and at the end of Saturday's festivities, you'll get Tyler, myself, and Darren Campbell, my fellow old blogger, and we'll give you a wrap-up of what happened that day. And it should be exciting because we'll find out what exactly the Vikings do. Did they make the right choice? Was it a huge smoke screen? Or was there truth to those rumors? We'll find out.
Yeah. Sorry. I missed a little bit of that because my dog, who has been neutered, decided to start humping his bed. And apparently if they're doing that a few months after neutering, it can be somewhat of an issue. So Odie is just causing all kinds of problems today. But let's continue on with the show because I don't think any of you want to hear about Odie humping. Dave, we are going to go to industry mock drafts this year.
Okay.
And I'm going to pull up my mock draft tracker. And if you want to follow along, VikingsWire.com. I released it earlier today. It is a mock draft roundup. We've had a lot of stuff go up today. So
good.
It kind of got buried a little bit. But here's the thing with the mock draft roundup. It is designed to show what the industry has the Minnesota Vikings doing with mock drafts. and I'm relatively selective on which mock drafts I include because I want to make sure I have mock drafts of individuals I believe are they put in the work and they're from qualified outlets. So I don't just pick anyone. I pick like the top echelon people because there are some that I don't believe to be super credible and I don't use those. I'm not going to straight up say who I do and don't use, but you know the ones I use. It's like the ESPNs, the CBS, like the Athletic. Those are the ones I'm using.
When Arif was on last week, he even talked about when he does his consensus big board, he's real particular as to whose board he uses because he doesn't want to use just Joe Schmo's. Even though Joe Schmo may have had fun making it, he doesn't want to use theirs because they don't have the gravitas or the experience.
Justin with a good point here. Good thing we didn't implement the Odie camp. Yeah, that would have been really, really weird to watch him just hump away. But I've been doing it for 16 weeks. So the first day I did it was January 1st. And the most mock drafts I've collected in a week have been the last two. Last week was 55 mock drafts. The week before was 42. I've collected 436 individual mock drafts over 16 weeks. 54 unique players selected, Dave. We'll go through just the top 10. There are 18 players that have gotten at least double-digit picks. Not one player has been mocked to the Vikings every single week. The closest one is Deonte Banks. His first mock draft was week 3, and he hit every single mock draft except for 4 total. Cam Smith has only 4 weeks missed as well. Sorry, he has 5. Keely Ringo has 4 weeks missed. But yeah, it's been all over the place. Gary, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. And you know what? That was just the first episode. So if it was that good already, just imagine how good it's going to be when we get everything locked in. Top players. Number 1 with 50 selections by the Minnesota Vikings, Deonte Banks, cornerback, Maryland. His first selection was the week of January 16th. And that ended up being by Dane Brugler. And I've talked about it on the show. I asked him what games to watch, and boom, I watched him, and yeah, he was really good. Number 2, USC wide receiver Jordan Addison, 33 times, including a single high for any one player so far in this draft class. 9 selections, 9 analysts sent Jordan Addison to the Minnesota Vikings. Number 3, South Carolina quarterback Cam Smith, really heavy early on. In the last 4 weeks, he's only been mocked to the Vikings 4 times, kind of been considered like an afterthought of this cornerback class. It's the top 3, and then it's like Deonte Banks, Emmanuel Forbes. Those are the guys that really get talked about. Cam Smith, he's really good. He's number 4 on my board as far as cornerbacks are concerned. And Odie, you're just such a dork. He's still going to town. Fun stuff. But Cam Smith, I think, is a really good football player, and there's a reason why he keeps getting mocked to the Vikings and around this spot. Number 4, a guy I don't like very much is Keely Ringo, cornerback, Georgia, 23 times. Good football player. I just don't think that he has what you want from a cornerback that's going to be running this system. He's got too stiff of hips. He just does. Number 5, Mississippi State corner Emmanuel Forbes. He's Gumby. Dave, he is Gumby. I released an article, a little bit of a fun one. Unique comps outside the realm of football. Gumby was my comp for Emmanuel Forbes. That's kind of worrisome a little bit. But the guy's got ball skills. He's got great straight line
that
speed.
You comped a player after a rubber toy?
Claymation. Let's be fair here. He was clay.
Well, it started out, yes. But when I was a kid, we could get toy Gumbies.
Oh, I had a toy Gumby and Pokey when I was a kid. I loved Gumby. I watched him as like a 5-year-old all the time. He was awesome. Let's keep going here. Number 6, TCU wide receiver Quentin Johnston, number 3 player on my board, available at 23. He has been selected 20 times, including 8 last week and 4 the week before. So he's kind of a late riser as far as the Vikings are concerned.
Who's this again?
Quentin Johnston, the TCU wide receiver.
Heartthrob.
Oh, I love him. On the just missed the All Forno team. But I do love his tape, because the All Forno team isn't just about being great and projection in the NFL. It's about how much fun is this prospect for me to watch. And yeah, he was the final cut. All right, so we have talked about the first 6. Number 7, Joey Porter Jr., Penn State cornerback, 19 total times. This guy has been very consistent. Only 4 weeks where he was not sent to the Vikings, including there were 2 times this past week in the latest rendition of the mock draft roundup. 19 total, not like pretty good.
I think
Porter
he'll be drafted before he gets to us, though.
I think Banks could go higher, and Porter could be the one available at 23.
Okay.
Do I know that for certain? No, but Porter's the one of those top 3 that'll fall.
Mm-hmm.
I think Downs and Gonzalez have separated themselves enough. Tied with him at 7, Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker. I don't like Hendon Hooker.
Hey, there's a bunch of people that absolutely love him and think he could be the next great thing in the NFL, that he has prerequisite abilities and traits that he could be. The question is, will he? And part of that all depends on who selects who, right? You could be a upcoming quarterback coming out of college, but if you go to a team that doesn't foster growth of a quarterback, you could be ruined in, your first 4 years. Say if you went to the Mike Zimmer Vikings, obviously he didn't care for quarterbacks, and a lot of times you didn't get the development that you might have needed per se. And there's a lot of teams that have all gone that way, where they'll draft some guy who has lots of promise, and then he just gets shell-shocked over the next few years and he's done. So part of it's luck, is what team drafts you and who you go to and who is willing to mentor and foster your growth as you go up. Now, we believe that Kevin O'Connell is that guy. That is one of the reasons why the Wilfs went and hired Kevin O'Connell, because we want to find that guy that can take the next quarterback and make him something special. So we'll find out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Here's the thing with the Hendon Hooker discussion: if you have to ask yourself, do they share an agency with Hendon Hooker? Because a lot of the people that have been hyping him up share an agency with Hendon Hooker, CAA. So just be aware. All right, 2 guys tied for 9th, and that will round out the top 10. Ohio State wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba and Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers. Both those guys, 19 times. But neither one has been really a heavy favorite over the past couple of weeks. Zay Flowers 5 times total over the last 2 weeks. Jackson Smith-Njigba 1 time each over the last 2 weeks. But wide receiver has 3 players in the top 10. Cornerback has 5. But some of the thinking is a lot of with these early mock drafts is you're trying to fill needs and you're trying to put guys that make sense. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen. You're going to see a lot more predictive style mocks. That's going to tell you about that. Oh, my wife joined. Hi, babe. Well, welcome to watching your first show. I appreciate you.
She down in Florida?
All right. She is down in Florida with her best friend. My wife has her 30th birthday next month, and her best friend just turned 30. So they're doing a little girls trip for their birthday. So
good for them.
It They were snorkeling today. They had a little bit of fun. All right, I want to answer before we get to our mock draft for the night, Dave. And this is going to be our final mock draft. So I'm going to try and be predictive as best I can. Let's see, I actually have to scroll up to get to the question. Colin Benson asks, do you think levels can be taught or learned to get an internal clock? Here's the interesting thing. I think he has an internal clock. He's just late to hit the snooze. And let me kind of explain my thought process here. He has reps where he knows to get rid of the ball early. He knows that he can feel and sense pressure, so he gets rid of the ball. But he had such a porous offensive line. And on top of that, not only with the poor offensive line, but he didn't have great weapons, and he didn't have a great scheme either to build with. You pair both of those up, and like that can hinder your internal clock. I think that with more reps, with quality around him, I think he'll be better with that. I don't think he'll ever be great, but I think he will improve in that area, and it won't be as big of a concern. So that's kind of how I view that, Colin. I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, please feel free to jump back in the comments and let me know. I will expand on that, but I think it's not so much learning, it's being more consistent. It's something we talked about with Anthony Richardson. He already knows how to use great mechanics. He's nowhere near consistent with it. Get the consistency, you'll be fine. Now, we're 3 days away from the NFL draft, Dave. It is time for our final mock draft Monday.
I was asked a question. I knew you'd do that. Mock Draft Monday. I've got to bring up the site. Stand by. Welcome to the Real Forno Show's Mock Draft Mondays. Who will the Vikings pick, and who's your favorite choice?
Here we are.
Here we are. And here's where Dave's got to log in because he totally forgot about mock drafting tonight.
Well, if this one doesn't work because it's been really annoying for us, we can do PFF, and I'm fine with that.
Well, we may have to, but let's find out first. Let's go.
All right, well, you get that loaded up. We got Joseph in the comments. Go for it. Make it happen. Draft a fully healthy franchise QB. The new Vikings regime leading the team into the new era. Look, Joseph, yes, that's all we want. We want this team to be able to take it to the next level, and I cannot wait to see what happens. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really good.
Yeah.
And it looks like we got to go to PFF.
Garbage again.
He's a good boy, Odie. If I can get a good shot at him, I'll pick Odie up for a nice little finale to Mock Draft Monday. But I gotta loop him over so he's easy to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, buddy. Oh, and he made it impossible. So we'll wait for Dave. Listen, I just want to say, hey, thank you guys for all tuning in tonight. We're going to do this one final mock draft. It's going to be a fun one. And Dave, I still have a blurry screen. I have no idea why Ecamm is doing this to me. So I'm going to give us one more viewer on YouTube, I guess.
Okay.
Please, if you have not had the ability or done so yet, please like, comment, subscribe. This is been a fantastic month and a half for us. Continue to grow this channel and be great with it. And your support means everything as far as continuing to grow this networking community. So thank you very much.
Yep. We're
Dave,
almost to 500 on our way to hopefully over 3,000. So now
We would love to hit 500 before the draft. Please help us get there.
there's how many rounds?
7. We're going to do the full gambit.
Click. Enter draft.
Davey, that's interesting you say yours is blurry because I've got YouTube pulled up on my other monitor and it looks great. Are you watching on YouTube or are you watching on Facebook? All right. Dave, fire away. Let's get it
Boom.
rocking and rolling.
Bada bing, bada
All right.
boom. We have 3 trades. Who's available? First off, well, let's go with look at the trades. The Chefs, they're wanting their pick 31, and who we'd select from there. That would leave us in.
I'll say this. Oh, Colin, thank you. That's very nice. Thank you for sharing our stuff with your brother. Let's offer the Chiefs 23 for 31, their 3rd round pick, and let's see if we can get their 4th as well.
Trade
Perfect.
accepted.
This is what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to probably move down to the back end of the 1st round, maybe into round 2 for a team that has 2 second-round picks, but I think a 3 and a 4 is probably what you're looking at, okay? All right, so now we kind of take a look at what the board looks like at pick
31. This gives us our 5th-year option.
Yep. All right, Anton Harrison, Will McDonald. Will McDonald maybe, but I'm not sold on it. Let's keep going, Dave. What else do we have? Reggie, we could have looked at all 3 options, but I think I'm trying to be the most realistic. I think this is the one. This is probably the spot where we would trade down, and I know the Chiefs are trying to trade up. So I just kind of, we're just kind of going there. All right, so we got Felix Anudike, Uzama, Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's keep scrolling, Dave. John Michael
there
Schmitz,
we go,
Mozzie.
John Michael Schmitz.
Sorry, we're not taking a big round belly for the offense. I'm not doing it. Darnell Washington's an interesting one, but we are so loaded at tight end, not at this point. Josh Downs, Brian Brisset, both of those guys I would really consider taking here. Same with Cam Smith. Steve Avila, Sam Laporta, Tyreek Stevenson, who I'm not quite that high on. Same with Tank Dell. Okay, so to me, Dave, it's between 3 guys. Okay. Josh Downs, Brian Brisset, and Mozzie Smith. Now, I don't think Harrison Phillips is a true nose. So, and when you take a look at athletic upside, I think Mozzie has it in droves. Brian Brisset has it even more so, but he plays more of a 5-tech. This defense needs a really good nose to thrive, so I think Mozzie is going to be a very intriguing option. Number 1 on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, and just an incredible athlete. Downs is very intriguing as well, but I don't think the Vikings will view him versus the guys you can get at 87 to be that big of a difference. So I'm going to kind of eliminate Downs here, and I think they're going to go interior of that defensive line. And to me, it's between Mozzie Smith and Brian Brisset. I think based on the surplus value, it's Brian Brisset. So that's who we're going to take here.
I'm about to say, it should be Brisset because they're going to want somebody that can play. Yes, Harrison Phillips can play nose. But when it comes to passing downs, they need somebody that can push and hopefully get it. Brian Brisset has that capability. And So I would think we get more value out of Brisset on a defensive interior than picking somebody that replaces Phillips on
I
one
think
down.
that would more mean that you would just slide Phillips over to a 3 tech instead, and then have Mozzie at the 1 tech nose.
Right.
That's kind of what I would be thinking there. But I think Brisset just offers too much upside. This dude's a top 10 pick if like he had some rough circumstances. Torn ACL in 2021, defensive coordinator leaves, and then he had his little sister, 15-year-old sister, die this past year and never missed a game. Like, there's a lot of reasons he didn't produce, but the athleticism is just too much to pass up.
We have
So,
Travarius Hodges Tomlinson.
At this point, we're not going to trade back. I actually think that the Vikings may try to trade up if they see a guy that they really like. But especially because you can package 87 and 119, get up to maybe 75. Okay.
There's the guy right there. It was our guest last week talking about Corey Trice. And we just lost Tyler. I don't know what's happening up there in Minneapolis, folks. Whether it's the internet or whether it's Odie chewing on his.
That was weird. I didn't click anything. It just said thanks for joining.
Well, you zipped off. My selection at this pick is Corey Trice.
Trice is interesting. I want to see who else is on the board to see if there's anyone else I value over Trice. Trice is a big guy, but I'm not sold on him to the point where Brett Coleman is. So I want to at least kind of examine the board and try and figure that out.
We got Chandler Zavala.
Davey's saying draft Odie. Look, I love Odie, but he's too small. He's a day 3 player.
Hey, if we wanted to pick up investment QB, got Tanner McKee.
I'm not convinced the Vikings will be in on Tanner McKee. He doesn't exude modern day quarterback, and I think that's going to be a big deal for this regime, where they're going to want a guy who's a little bit more on the mobile side, and I just don't think that's him. Anthony making a good point, Dave. Let's look at wide receiver. Oh, there we go. There's the guy. We're going to take A.T. Perry, Wake Forest. This is Quentin Johnston dollar store version.
But my question is, if we took the corner, would Perry be available at 95?
I don't know, and I think based on this corner class, it's smarter to take the wide receiver, and I think the Vikings will agree with that.
Okay. Boom. Well, there's Trice.
I'm going to take a look at
we need corners.
Trice's. So elite size and strength, really good agility, great broad, average vertical, 74th percentile essentially across the board, 10-yard, 20-yard, 40-yard split, 9.89 relative athletic score. For a guy that tall, he's only got 32 and 3/8 inch arms. That's a little bit surprising, but it's also not a deal breaker. It's just not going to be quite as good as it could potentially be. Let's go Trice. I don't think he quite meets the explosiveness thresholds that the Vikings currently have, but he's also not that far down. Doug is asking if we're trading down. No. Here's why.
At this point, no.
So Kwesi has mentioned that you don't always want to take 10 picks in a draft. They did last year because they needed depth. But at a certain point, you want to just attack. You want to attack with really good players. And the Vikings, I think, having now they have 7 total picks. I think that's a really good spot. 7 is a good number. The Vikings only they have 67 players on their roster right now. They need to get 90 for preseason. So let's say they draft 7, they can bring in 16 UDFAs. Not bad, right? That sounds pretty good. But let's keep looking. So we already have a defensive lineman, we have a wide receiver, we have a corner. So now it could be an interesting time for quarterback. Let's keep looking at what we've got here.
Dorian Williams at linebacker.
Dorian Williams is one I'm going to keep in mind, absolutely, but he's also not from a Power 5 school, and I think that's going to make a difference because the Vikings have not drafted one under Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. 10 guys and 1 UDFA, all Power 5 last year. Yeah, Chase Brown, I'm not into at all.
That could be just coincidence. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We only have 1 point of data last year.
Yeah. Stop. Here's a guy I think they'll be interested in. Ivan Pace Jr. And it's into for a different reason than you might expect. This guy is a pass rusher at middle linebacker. Like, you want to talk about blitzing? Ivan Pace is one of the best blitzers in college football. He went from Miami of Ohio to Cincinnati, 9.5 sacks last year. Really, really good football player. But he doesn't move laterally well, and I think pairing him with Asamoah, like on early downs, I think could be really fun. And his absolute worst case outcome is he's just a behemoth on special teams, which we could utilize, honestly. 4th round picks, you'd like them to eventually contend for a starting job, but like by year 3 or 4, but you're not going to expect them to start. I think Ivan Pace would be a really nice selection here. So we're going to take him. That versatility element, I think, is going to be really intriguing for Brian Flores. So far, we have a defensive lineman, wide receiver, a corner, and a linebacker. Now, I don't know if they'll end up taking more interior defensive linemen. I'm going to go no. I want to look at quarterback here, Dave.
Okay.
So Dan mentions that Kwesi didn't have his guys scouting here yet. You're correct, but that'll be more in tune this year as far as what he likes. That they'll be targeting it a little more, but they still had information. So I feel semi-comfortable making some of these correlations, but I think you're right. We need more info. So let's take a look at quarterback. We have...
There it is.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Ain't that. Why am I not seeing?
It's right underneath
Search.
trades.
Duh. All. Quarterback. Bingo. I think I've done this 100 times. All right. We have McKee, DTR, Hayner, Clayton Tune, Stetson Bennett, Aidan O'Connell, Malik Cunningham, Jaron Hall. There's one of your heartthrobs. Tyson Badgett, Max Dugan. That's it.
I can't believe Malik Cunningham's above Jaron Hall. That's a travesty. I'm sorry. No. I understand. I love Jaron Hall. No. That's bad. That's awful process.
Anthony says we should take Hayner.
I really like Hayner. Here's what I think the Vikings will do. I think of all these guys, they're going to go with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The plus upside, working with Kevin O'Connell in those gifts. You just have, like somebody mentioned in the chat, the Bozo gene. Yep, he's got the Bozo gene, but he makes plays like a first-round pick. And if you can kind of even some of that out, I think there could be something there, but there's work to do, and especially as a 5-year starter. But I think that's what Kevin O'Connell's brought here for. So we're going to take Dorian Thompson-Robinson here. And I think that would be the way the Vikings went. If I was making the pick, Dave, it's Jaron Hall. And it's not even close. I love Jaron Hall. Hayner, I guess, would probably be the closest. But I love Jaron Hall. He is my guy. All right, so 158 and 211. We can kind of go wherever we want here. We filled needs. We've got value. Now, let's take a look at players. I think Deuce Vaughn's a really interesting proposition here. He's only available here because of his size, not because of his talent. His talent is great. He's got a lot of it. But at the same time, he's 5'5". You're expecting him to be Darren Sproles. He kind of plays like him. It's a very lazy comp, but you don't have a lot of data on guys who are small at the position. So that's why those comps are made. Oluwatimi, the dude's just discount Garrett Bradbury. I don't. Maybe let's take a look at the rest of the board. Sean Tucker I really like, but there's rumors of a heart condition. But he did put up 29 reps on the bench today at his workout because he was waiting on getting medical clearance from the NFL. Sean Tucker could go undrafted because of that. I love Keaton Mitchell, but he's got a little size issue himself. He's like 5'9", 181. I'll be honest, if I'm taking any of these guys, as the Vikings, I'm probably gonna end up taking Deuce Vaughn because he's got a little bit of everything. Broderick Martin,
he's 5'5".
Yeah.
No.
Why are you yelling at me?
No. Quasi likes 90th percentile guys. 5'5" is not 90th percentile of squat. Not even close.
Well, it's 90th percentile of 5'6".
Hey, see what I got to deal with, folks?
Yeah. You hush over there, Dave. You hush.
Now, I think there's a couple positions we should be looking at. One is edge. If there's any decent edge guys that we're going to want to look at. Anybody who's left, who has promise. You got Mike Morris. That's a familiar name. That we like out of these bunch. And the other one.
Okay, so.
Interior O-line.
Dave, the only guys that he had in the 90th percentile or higher in height were the 3 defensive backs and Asezi Otomewo. Jalen Naylor was 30th percentile, Luigi Villain 36th, Brian Asamoah 22nd. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong column. Brian Asamoah was 25th. Vidarian Lowe 25th. Like, size isn't as big of an issue, but I also understand.
David, he could be 2 feet if he's good. Guys that small, I only see as possibly kick returners, punt returners. That's it, period. They're going to get killed.
I think that Deuce Vaughn is a worthy...
That's why I drink.
Yeah, I am why Dave drinks. It is me and only me. It's nothing to do with his kids, anything like that. It is only me. As he pours another drink because I'm trying to talk him into a 5'5" running back. Listen, this is the point in the draft where you take chances on talented players that have deficiencies, and that's why I'm talking I think Deuce Vaughn might be that guy. Let's take a look at the running backs, though. Maybe I'll change my mind.
All right. I'm willing to do that.
You gotta scroll up.
I'm trying. There we go.
Tucker, I'm taking off the board because of unknown medicals. I don't have access to it, but I've heard they're not good, so I'm just going to kind of stay away. If anybody's going to be willing to take on a player with medicals, it's the Vikings, just because they have a great medical staff at this point. Keaton Mitchell, I love. I really do. He's so much fun. But, again, G5 guy. Let's keep scrolling down. I don't think they'll be into Kenny McIntosh. He tested abysmal. Just abysmal. Travis Dye is average. Evan Hall. Here's an interesting one. Local guy. kind of his stock is really low because he played at, well, Northwestern, and Northwestern's really bad. I like this one a lot.
Anthony Tellison
Ran a 4.
Ibrahim.
Yeah, but to me that doesn't scream Viking,
Okay.
especially because he's that much older. He's a 6th-year guy. I think Evan Hall. Let's go Evan Hall.
Mateo. Evan Hall. We now have another running back. That makes
All right, so
437 we have in the room. Our last
211.
pick.
Jalen Moreno-Cropper's an interesting guy. I really like him a lot. He graded out pretty well for me, like mid-4th. Maybe it was late 3rd. It's in that kind of range. I really liked his game. More explosive than I gave him credit for in live watches. Just a really sound slot type of receiver. He can win on the outside if you need him to. Reliable. He is a nice little safety blanket. He is bigger than the 172. I think he weighed in at 185 at the combine, I want to say. He's not that small.
Well, he's not 5'5".
No, he's 5'11".
Anthony thinks we should go for another corner, which is not a half bad idea.
Well, let's scroll down the board. Let's see who's available.
Clayton Tune.
Trey Dean's more of a slot. Doesn't scream
Nichols.
Viking. He ran like a 4.7. He's more of a thumper than a cover guy. Talented player. Grant Dubose is an interesting one. Has only played football for a few years. Had some wow plays in the Senior Bowl, but had some like head scratchers too. That could be a really nice dart throw here. Let's keep scrolling. Jonah Tavai. Jake Andrews is a guy I've liked taking a lot here. Quality center. Not going to wow you, but not going to be a disaster either. Ventrell Miller is not a Viking. Too slow. Too many injury issues. Ventrell Miller would have been a great linebacker in like 2000, like the year 2000. Ventrell Miller would have been like a 1st or 2nd round pick.
Yes, Mateo, I concur. He took guys with injury histories, but you hope those things go away. Jake Andrews sounds like the guy. We get a backup center. So if our center shits the bed in his 5th year, we can get rid of him.
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
And that's it, folks. The draft is in the books. We are looking at our grades. And of course, I'm sure none of this will happen tomorrow. But it has been fun doing these mock drafts all the way up into the draft. And our grades. We get an A- for Brian Brisset. We get a B+ on the trade. We get a B for A.T. Perry. An A for Corey Trice. A B+ for Ivan Pace. A D- for DTR. An absolute F for Evan Hall. And an A- for Jake Andrews. Overall grade, A-. Not bad.
Hey, we'll take it.
Mm-hmm. So that is that.
Thank you all for joining. This is going to be a really fun week. You will want to keep things tabbed for this network. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You're also going to want to have notifications on for the Vikings Wire, we are going to have a lot coming. We've already posted about 13 things today, and there's even more coming. This is one of the best weeks of the year. Be careful who you get your information from, and remember, everybody's trying to blow smoke up your ass. And I say that with all due respect, because they want you to think things aren't what they are. Thank you all for joining. We will see you Wednesday night, where I will have 3 guests: JP Acosta from SB Nation, Kevin Fielder from the Vikings Wire, and AJ Schulte from RPM Data. We're literally just going to sit and have a roundtable, and we're going to talk NFL draft, different scenarios. This will be a really good show for those of you in the comments. We're literally just going to talk draft, so there's not going to be anything specific we're going to talk about, just draft. So if you have any questions or stuff we want to talk about, jump in the comments. It's just going to be a bar roundtable, essentially, with 4 guys who know a lot about this process and about this class. So we're going to have a lot of fun. In the meantime, for producer Dave and myself, SKOL Vikings, everybody.
SKOL Vikings! Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community, and we all love our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Fornes and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!